All right, we got The Real Reason Why Music is Getting Worse from Rick Beato. I got hammered the last time for saying that shit wrong. I'm going to say it right this time. Okay, why is music getting worse?
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. We're going to try something new today. This video is on the history of the music business and technology in 2 acts.
Ooh.
Act 1. Music is too easy to make.
What? I could guess where he's going to try to go with this, but let me see.
What do I mean by music is too easy to make? Let's just go back to the 1940s and 50s. Frank Sinatra used to get up in front of an orchestra and sing a vocal take, and they had one microphone. And they would get it balanced just right. Frank would say, okay, I'm ready to do it, and he'd sing it.
Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru.
Then you get into the 1960s or so, and then you have things where you have multi-track machines. You could go in if you had a mistake in a vocal part or any instrument, and you do a punch in. Oh, I don't like that word. I sang it out of tune, or I want to change this lyric. You go in and you just punch in, fix the line, punch out. Fast.
Yeah, I've watched a couple music video making ofs, and they used what did they use? They used Adobe. What's the video one? The editing one for that shit. Not Photoshop. Fucking Premiere. Adobe Premiere. And the amount of cuts in a single song, it'll be upwards of 100, 200, maybe even more. There is almost, for some songs, depending on the skill and whatever, and all that jazz, depending on a couple of variables, seemingly every word in a song can be cut out, and a new one, a better version, sung a slightly different way, will be put in. That is crazy to me. So it's understandable when he says, well, he hasn't really said anything, but he's kind of going back to the whole just sing a song in one take. That's the skill. Just do it in one take. And then there's the next level. Okay, you can punch in, punch out of, okay, maybe you sang a word wrong or a sentence wrong and it didn't come out quite right, so that's the next level. And then you're at modern day levels, and it's seemingly almost every word is edited in and out, and you have to constantly sing the right way, the right tune, the right pitch, the right volume, and so many other things. So it's completely understandable for songs to be seemingly to feel completely manufactured without a regular person even discerning what the difference is.
Fast forward to 1998 with Cher, the Believe song. They invented this thing, Autotune. I've talked about this a million times on YouTube. Autotune was a plug-in that would go into these DAWs, digital audio workstations. So you'd have something like Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton. What you do is you take the vocal, let's say the song's in C major. Any note in the key of C major, it would tune the note to. Well, T-Pain and people like that realized if you put it on a really hard tuning, it would make it sound like a keyboard. And that's what they did in the Believe song.
So this add-on came out, and it made it so that if you sung at 70 or 80%, the auto-tune would ramp it up to 100 and make it more, I don't know, keyboardy, smooth, silky. There's a couple adjectives you could use. And since the advent of auto-tune, it's just been here forever now. It's just a normal thing.
Well, then the same thing starts happening with drum parts. Guys playing a drum part, and you're like, you know what? This would be a great take of this first verse if this one hi-hat wasn't a little drag. Well, let's move it back a little bit, or let's move it forward, whatever. And then you move that, and you're like, well, the snare after it kind of sounds weird because we moved that forward. Now the snare sounds like it's dragged, so we do that. Then you're like, well, you know what? Let's just look at the grid lines, the bar lines, and we'll just move them to that. Then you start cutting out, moving them. Then they give you this tool called Beat Detective. Then you can actually quantize an entire part. So then it becomes
Oh shit, another add-on. Another add-on. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like the automation of music, or I was gonna say like this sounds like what World of Warcraft does and all their add-ons that you have to download to even like play the game. This kind of is starting to sound like that, to be honest. Like, oh, you can't just have a singer. You have to like have all these. You have to have autotune. You have to have editing skills. Oh, you can't just have like the drum beat. You have to be able to put it forward a little bit, put it back a little bit, and oh no, fuck that. Just download this like add-on, and it'll do everything for you.
Becomes like a drum machine. So it's not human like. Here's an example of a quantized drum part. It's John Bonham's drum performance from Fool in the Rain that's a shuffle. Here's what it sounds like as a machine. Now here's the actual human performance of John Bonham. Notice the swing in it. Once you've quantized the drum part,
not gonna lie, I am a regular person, a regular music enjoyer. I couldn't tell the difference. Notice the swing in it. I mean, I think this is something for music bros that they can pick up on it, but I don't know. I'm not sophisticated enough to tell the difference. But I can understand what Rick's trying to get at in that if you have like a robot do everything, it'll be like perfect. You know, perfectly laid out, perfect like rhythm and whatnot. But then if you have like a person do it, there's like little imperfections in timings. And I can get it in that you can, you know, if you're like, if you know what you're listening for, the human, that like the person doing the actual thing will just sound better. But the robot will be able to do it perfect 100% of the time. And it takes, I don't know, all of the, I don't know, the soul out of it, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just guessing.
It's a drum machine. It's just like Superior Drums. So what started happening in the year 2000 or so is that everyone started quantizing their drums because the budgets to hire session guys like Josh Freese and Kenny Aronoff went away, and you'd have to use the crappy drummers. I mean, some bands would have good enough drummers to play, but you'd typically have these crappy drummers that you'd have to fix their parts. And once you fix their parts, you start moving the bass around, you start moving the guitars around, and then you pretty much have sterile, generic, quantized rock music that has no vibe at all.
No vibe at all. I mean, I get it. If you want to hire like a really good, like high level, like drummer, it costs a lot of money. But if you just get good at using this drum machine, you can get by with about like 80-90% accuracy and it'll sound really clean. But again, I am just a regular music enjoyer. I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference between something that sounds sterile and something that just vibes. I mean, that's just me. You know what this kind of like this argument is actually beginning to sound like what is it? Everybody like in public, and you know, like how the newspapers, everybody that used to write for the newspaper had to write everything at a 5th grade reading level. And, you know, that's like the, I don't know, the lowest common denominator. Is music essentially going into like the same route where music is just being made for the lowest common denominator because regular people's ears aren't sophisticated enough to tell the subtle like differences, and even in which like can you detect whether or not a machine made this or what do you call it, a human did this? I mean, me personally, I can't fucking tell.
The other thing that people realize is that it's really difficult and time consuming to record a drum set. You need a studio and a lot of gear. Look at all these mics. Now you can put up 3 mics and get a drum sound. You can put up 2 mics and get a...
It's the logistics. It's the sheer logistics and manual labor of it. Would you rather set up this whole thing, or would you just set up a computer or even a laptop? download the drum machine and make that shit in there like that. Which is easier? Well, it's not necessarily about which is like, well, it kind of is about which is easier in that people will always take the path of least resistance if you give them the option. I mean, would the quality be different, higher or lower if you got like a human? I mean, yeah. But if you want to look for something consistent, then you do it the machine way.
The drum sound. But to get a professional drum sound, you tend to mic up the different instruments. I got 2 mics on the bass drum. I got a mic on this tom, mic on that tom, mic on the ride, 2 mics.
How much money does all of this cost? I would imagine this is not cheap. Just the drum set alone. Like, I have like one drummer buddy, but and he never had like any mics, but his drum set was, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and it was like a pretty impressive setup, something like this. I think he had like maybe like 1 or 2 toms or something like that, but yeah, this is like expensive. It's time consuming. Yeah, absolutely.
On the overheads, 2 mics on the snare here. I actually have 3 mics on the snare and a mic on the hi-hat, and I have a couple room mics. It's hard to record it well. Not only is it hard to play the drums well, but it's hard to record the drums well, and you have to have training. It's not easy to do. You have a great ear. You got to know how to tune them. You got to know what is a good snare sound from a bad sound. You got to know if the toms are ringing too much. You got to know if they're in the right pitches, all this kind of stuff. There's so many decisions to make. Now, some of you are out there thinking, what are you talking about, Rick? You don't need to have a good sounding room. You can have a crappy sounding room. You don't even need good mics.
Okay. So I kind of get what he's gonna get at next. I would say, since most people are only used to like either listening to like either what's on the radio, what's in the sound system of their car on the radio, what's on YouTube, or what's on SoundCloud or Spotify or Apple Music. And all of that will get dictated by whatever sound system you have immediately at your disposal. So guys that make music for a living, they put a lot of time and effort into the equipment that they use to get like a very specific sound. And it might sound good to them on their setup, but when they go to like mass, like release their music, they can't control how their music is heard because everybody else's setup will most likely just simply be lesser than theirs in terms of like sound quality. It's just a fact of the matter. Not everybody has a shitload of money to spend on like good sounding speakers and bass and all this other shit. So why make music that has all of these fine details when the listener won't even be able to pick up on them, is what it seems.
Because you're going to just replace everything with samples. Well, where do you think samples come from? They come from people that know how to record them. That one was for free. It's difficult to get a good guitar sound. You have to have a good sounding amp. You have to have good sounding speakers, good microphones that work well.
Wait, let me see that. Let me see that mic again. Bro, the mics are literally right on top of the... You know what this reminds me of? Oh my God. Remember, what the hell? Remember like playing Time Crisis at the movie theater with those like plastic guns? You gotta like aim off the screen to like reload. That's what this reminds me of. The mic is literally right up against the speaker, so there's no error in like distance. That reminds me of when I played Time Crisis. I stuck my gun right up on the screen. Fuck getting like all the way back here and trying to be like precise. I'm a little kid. I ain't got no like hand-eye coordination. I'm putting that shit right up against the glass to hit that bad guy. That's what this reminds me of. Oh my God.
Speakers, good microphones that work well. Most people now just use amp modelers. They plug into their computer, they pull up their program, everything is done for them. They've already been pre-mic'd, pre-selected. They're all using the same algorithms. They can create great sounds. They're so easy to use. Doesn't take any skill at all, but it doesn't take any creativity either. Then of course you have the MIDI packs that you can buy if you can't
So there's like a thing going on that, at least in the US, that it's like the trend is like, oh, the population is getting stupider. Are musicians getting like less creative or stupider as well because there are just so many like online things to just do to like fix all your problems, so that when it comes time to actually make a song, like you just like do the parts, like there's less creativity in general.
Can't play keyboard, so it'll just have pre-programmed chord progressions, because for some reason people can't just kind of space their fingers out and learn to play a few chords like that, or maybe just experiment. What is this? What is this? In the early 2000s, labels stopped signing rock bands essentially because
Damn.
it was way too resource intensive. It was far easier to sign artists that could make their own music using a laptop and a microphone. Why is this a bad thing? Well, let's start with the creative dependency on technology
Oh,
limits the ability of people to innovate.
I wonder if he's gonna bring up AI and AI being able to create music.
I believe. Could be wrong about that. Maybe it helps them innovate. I don't think so, though. The homogenization of music. The
Oh.
over-reliance on similar tools, as I just brought up with the amp models, creates a lack of diversity. I think that
Dang, he's spitting right now. Homogenization of music. I'd probably have to agree with him, but it's like even if you go inside like one genre, I mean, I'm just again, I'm a regular guy. I don't know dick about ass in terms of music. How I find like music and whether or not like I think a song sounds good is completely subjective. There's nothing objective about it. Like you can have like a song that is objectively like more skillful and sounds better to you, but me over here, I'll be like, nah, that one's not for me. You know, the homogenization of music. I mean, shit, I'd probably have to agree with him.
that leads to music becoming more formulaic and people just following trends of using certain types of sounds. This is why these trap beats have been in vogue for the last 20 years. People just,
Oh,
they
yeah.
know they work, so they just keep using them all the time.
Yeah. Music is being meta'd the fuck out of. You know, like in video games, there's like a meta that, you know, emerges. It's like, oh, this is the best weapon, this is the best armor, this is the best gear, this is the best skills, this is the best gun loadout, and whatever. With music, it seems like it's the same thing. People are quickly, well, not people, like skilled musicians are quickly realizing what just sounds good and what just works, and they are sticking to that. So there is a meta that is emerging. And music isn't really like like nobody like the thing with like a video game is like I'm just like fucking stuttering. Like nobody owns how to make a song. Like you can own a song in like multiple different licenses and whatnot, but how you make a song, like you can't define how a song is good or, well, you can define how a song is good or bad, but it's up to the audience to determine whether or not your song is good or bad. And that really depends on who your audience is. Is your audience like just the masses of people, or is your audience the like the skilled top 1% of musicians that can tell the difference in between like every note and every word and tone and pitch and this and that and all that shit? Well, if you make a song for this crowd, yeah, they'll be like, oh yeah, good job, very skillful, bravo. But you won't make a lot of money. But if you make a song for the masses and it's just good enough, well then you could potentially make a lot of money.
Quality versus quantity. This is a big thing. Okay, so the easier production makes the process go faster, which creates an oversaturation of music, making it harder to find really exceptional things, as Ted Gioia talks about in this clip.
This is Spotify's way of using AI. They have AI
Oh.
songs, they attribute them to people that don't exist, and this allows them to take royalties that would go to musicians and keep them for themselves.
Damn, I didn't know Spotify was doing that shit. Spotify is actually just like making AI music, and they're just, what, paying themselves? Holy shit. I used to be subscribed to Spotify for like 3 years. The song quality is like amazing. I wish I could, well, I like budget all my shit out and I'm just like, I could probably drop Spotify. I mean, shit. That's crazy. God dang AI. It's not looking good.
The AI front related to music is too easy to make. I made a video last week called I Told You This Was Going to Happen, and I played some songs off Udio, and I was saying how my kids could detect that they were AI songs, but other people could not. Well, it
Yeah, if you put an AI song in front of me, I probably couldn't tell the difference.
just came out. All three major labels are suing AI startups for copyright infringement. Universal Music Group, Sony Music, and Warner Music are suing Suno and Udio for copyright infringement because guess what? They're using all their music to train these AI models. Well, of course they are. How else are they going to train it?
Yeah.
Now, companies like Universal are not doing it for the good of their music to protect their copyright owners. What's going on here is they just announced that they're partnering with a company called SoundLab to make AI models.
The world's largest music company is helping musicians make their own AI voice clones. Damn. Is this something that singers would want or would utilize? Dang. Shit. That's crazy. So what? You take a mic, boot up the AI, go into training mode, and just sing your heart out for hours and hours and hours, and then the AI will what? It'll pick out all the unique things that you like do with all your vowels and consonants and pitches, tones, and whatever else, volume, and then it'll just make a perfect version of your voice. And if you wanted to like plug in some lyrics, you just plug in the lyrics and then it'll just sing it in a certain way. So, dang. All right.
Of their artists for themselves. They can use this SoundLab plugin in Pro Tools or Logic, and you can sing your own voice and replace it with one of their artists like Drake or Taylor Swift or Billie Eilish, or whoever agrees to this. And I guarantee you all these labels are going to do that because they want to own the AI versions of these songs. Whether you create it or whether they create it, they're going to own it. And just to show you how easy it is to model someone's voice with AI.
Bro, the US, at least the US government, is not moving quick enough to figure out laws for AI. It is simply not moving quick enough.
Hi, I'm speaking to you through a voice modeling program called 11 Labs that was trained on my voice over a 4-week period. So for those of you that keep writing,
Yeah, that sounded pretty dang freaking good, man. It sounded like you.
to me every day. I get about 20 of these a day, and they always start, Rick, I wrote a song that I think can be a hit. I used AI to hear it because I know nothing about making music. That's literally from an email I got yesterday. This reminds me of the best AI critique I've seen. Creative AI tools can be seen as sophisticated plagiarism software, as they do not produce genuinely original content, but rather emulate and modify existing works by artists subtly enough to circumvent copyright laws.
Yeah, AI does not make anything new. It just makes little side tangents of existing things.
Well, what's funny about that is that was actually written by ChatGPT. Act 2. Music is too easy to...
I mean, you have to train the AI somehow. And how are you going to do it? You're going to plug in everything that a human made. All right. So that's its frame of reference. It is what it is. If you're trying to make up some new original thing, probably not going to use AI.
To consume. So this.
So honestly, you know what I could predict? I will predict like new music buzzwords in the industry. Like, you know how GMO was a thing, like a genetically modified organism for food? The music industry will come up with some more buzzwords for the like an entire song that is like human made. Like there's no AI in this song, and it'll get like a stamp of like non AI generative song or complete original or something along those lines.
Is the water faucet in my kitchen. But imagine this is streaming on Spotify or Apple Music. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, but what's going on in the stream of water is all of the music that's on these platforms. Now imagine this is one artist's entire output, their entire catalog. Might be The Police, could be Billie Eilish, could be Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. And then this dropper is each of their songs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I just did a whole record there. And
Okay.
eventually you exhaust their whole catalog. When I hit this and I start the stream, the music has very little importance if you think about it this way.
Damn.
It goes from the faucet, down the drain, out to the sewer, where it's recycled again. Except in this case, the music is not recycled like it is through the sewer. There were 100,000 new songs added every day in 2023 to streaming platforms.
100,000 a day? Holy shit, dude. That's crazy. I actually wonder if it's like, there's no shot that that's like a lot of like unique people doing it. It's probably the people that are on the bleeding cusp of like AI like songs and shit. There's probably like a decent amount of unique people creating like different songs, but I would say there are probably a couple people that are just massively making AI songs just to throw them up there, just to cast the widest net and hopefully something catches.
That's more than one song per second for the entire year. By comparison, when I was a kid, if I wanted to buy this Led Zeppelin 2 record, I had to get a job or borrow money from my parents to buy it because I wanted to own it. I wanted it to be in my collection. This album here, Pat Metheny, New Chautauqua, I paid $8 for, brand new, with the money that I made by bagging groceries at Tops grocery store in Fairport, New York. You actually had to expend energy riding your bike or walking to your job, working your shift, getting your paycheck at the end of the week, depositing it in the bank, getting money out, going to the record store, buying the record, bringing it home, playing it, listening to it a bunch of times, going over to your friend's house, sharing it with them. When a kid opens Spotify and clicks on a song, they can just skip to the next one if they don't like it. Think about this.
Yeah.
All
I think people's values and their value systems will change in the future. People will just value different things. You know it's coming.
of the music that exists, or at least it's been uploaded to Spotify or Apple Music, is available for $10.99 a month. I'm talking about all of Michael Jackson's music, all of AC/DC, Pink Floyd, Whitney Houston, Tupac, Kendrick Lamar, Juice WRLD, Eminem, Dr. Dre, all the works of Beethoven, of Bach, of Mozart, of Stravinsky, of Shostakovich, of Charlie Parker, of John Coltrane, of Miles Davis, Brad Meldo, of Pat Metheny, Keith Jarrett, all of that. $10.99 a month for the price of what we used to pay for one album.
Yeah.
It's all available on these streaming platforms. Which is why music is not as valued by young people. There is no sweat equity put into obtaining it.
The sweat equity. I like that. Oh, man. You didn't have to bust your ass to try to get a paycheck. Well, I mean, now, what? It's like $15 an hour is like a job, like minimum wage or something like that. So what? You're going to spend an hour of working just to get like an album? Even then, the sweat equity Understandably, I don't know how much an album would go for nowadays. I have no idea. I've never bought a single album or CD like in my entire life. Even like back in the day, anytime I wanted to listen to music, I would just LimeWire that shit. And I know I'm like outing myself, but I mean, hey, sometimes it would be a song, sometimes it would be something else. It was a gamble.
Having it be part of your collection.
Well, no, actually, I can't say that because I did used to buy CDs. I just completely remember because I used to have a CD player and I brought that shit on the bus, and that shit would skip anytime there was like a turn or I wiggled or I moved the CD in like some wonky way. And the first CD players didn't have skip protection, and it was only later that they invented CD players with skip protection. And then I had to buy that CD player, and then by that time the iPod came out, and everyone was just like all hype about iPods and shit. It's like, oh, you know, you could download like 10 CDs on this iPod, and then, you know, the memory would get bigger and bigger. And then, you know, smartphones came out. Well, not even smartphones. Before the smartphones, it was just the cell phone. And then eventually, you know, they got to flip phones, and then the smartphone came out. What was it? The fucking iPhone 1. That came out, and it's like, oh, it's your all-in-one device. Like, oh shit, here we go. It's the beginning of the end. And yeah.
It be part of your identity of who you are. These are the bands I believe in. These are the artists that I love. And I'm going to share it with my friends. I'm going to bring that record to school. I'm going to play it for my friends after school. We're all hanging out, reading the back cover of it and seeing who played on it. These things meant something. What was on here meant something. Produced by John Burns and Genesis. It was important. What I'm saying is that music has basically become valueless. If you only have to pay $10.99 a month to have access to anything, what is one song worth? You know, people tell me that they want me to make certain kinds of videos. They have these aspirational ideas, as my friend Todd calls them. But then they ultimately vote with their attention. Rick, make more What Makes a Song Great video.
Well, people will vote in their own best interest. And usually that's the path of least resistance. There has literally been nothing in life where I have seen where people choose to do a thing the hard way over the easy way for whatever moral thing that they believe in. Like, they themselves can uphold that, but for you to ask that, like, everybody else to adopt your same moral system, it's not going to work.
Make this kind of video. Or I wish that people would write songs in odd meters or use these more complex chord changes. But you know, ultimately, people will do that and then they don't listen to them because you vote with your attention. So try this.
You vote with your actions, and your action is your attention. What are you listening to? How are you listening to it?
Just sit down, just a couple times a week, play just a few songs. Don't look at your phone, or as I call it, the thought deletion device, because it empties your mind out. Don't look at TikTok. Don't look at YouTube or Twitter. Don't look at Instagram. Just listen to the music. Let it flow over you. Think about the lyrics. Think about the melody, and try to experience music like you used to. Or if you're young, try to experience music in the way that we used to. Love to know your thoughts. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.
Dang. Rick straight spitting. God dang. I mean, I like how he like made the video like music is too easy to make, it's too easy to consume. I mean, yeah, he's right. I don't see it ever reverting back to the way it was, ever. If anything, AI is going to take over even more. And I mean, shit. Whether or not it's the right thing or the wrong thing, I mean, you know, you just look at, I don't know, music universities and how many students are actually applying to these music universities. Is it going up or is it going down? No, like trying to study for like music theory or something like that. I mean, I don't know the names of the degrees or whatever, but I mean, shit, there's a ton of shit on YouTube where you can just learn to make music off of YouTube. This is not like, and there's like a lot of other industries that are going through this as well. The whole like AI thing. So yeah, I mean, it is a worry, and it's not like it's invalid, but I mean, I just don't see it going back to the way it used to be. But I actually like when he makes like philosophical conversation pieces like this. I think these are great videos. These are awesome. I want to see more of this. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. So yeah, later.